Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the previous episode, we witnessed Ly Hoai Ca gradually recovering after a long period of illness, with a smile returning to her face. But at the same time, a shocking secret was unexpectedly revealed by Hùng to Tearful San, his biological younger sister. That truth was like a blade tearing apart everything Tearful San had believed in for the past 20 years. The woman whom the two siblings had always called mother was, in fact, only their stepmother, while their real mother had left the family before they could even understand what maternal love was. The devastating news left Tearful San in stunned silence, her tears falling not only from grief, but also from the deep sense of betrayal by fate itself. As for Hùng, behind the strong facade of a police officer lay an unceasing turmoil. He was not only dealing with the undercurrents threatening to shake his family apart, but also facing an uncertain future. Would Hoai Ca, the woman he loved, have the strength to stay by his side and weather the storms together? To complicate matters further, Ha and Du, two other men who also had special feelings for Hoai Ca, were doing everything they could to win her heart. Three affections, three different paths, and one Hoai Ca standing at a crossroads, unsure which way to go. In today's episode, the knots will slowly unravel. Will Hoai Ca choose to walk alongside Hùng through countless hardships? Or will she seek another shoulder to lean on, one that may be more peaceful, but also farther from him? And Hùng, caught between the pressures of his work and the tempest within his family, how will he manage to hold on to both love and trust? Stay tuned until the end so you won't miss the intense twists and the choices that could change everything. In recent days, Hùng had been almost completely swept into the whirlwind of work and family matters, running from one task to another, barely having any time left to be with Hoai Ca. Short phone calls and hurried text messages could never replace the feeling of sitting together, talking face to face. Meanwhile, in another corner of the story, Ha, after a long period of being busy making a living, had returned home. He set his work aside to stay and take care of Tony, the little boy who had caught a mild illness. Not only Ha, but his mother also showered Tony with boundless affection, tending to every meal and every moment of rest as if he were her own grandson. During the days when Hùng was absent, Hoai Ca found her heart unexpectedly softening under the care and warmth from Ha and his mother. She could clearly feel the comfort of a complete home, a place where adults shouldered the burdens, where children's laughter filled the air, and where the smell of freshly cooked rice lingered through the kitchen. Tony, though unwell, still broke into a bright smile whenever Grandma and Uncle Ha coaxed or played with him. For Hoai Ca, those moments were not just a temporary solace, but like a simple family dream filled with love, something she and Tony had long yearned for. That morning, Hoai Ca decided to return to the old house, a place filled with countless memories, to tidy up the garden. The patch of land in front of the porch, once lush with rows of corn she had planted the previous season, now lay bare with brittle stalks and rustling withered leaves swaying in the wind. She wanted to pull them up, gather them into piles, then till the soil and form fresh rows, ready for the new season's vegetables. Ha, like a quiet companion, cared neither for the distance nor the labor. Rolling up his sleeves, he joined Hoai Ca in carrying each bundle of dried corn stalks to the corner of the yard, bending down to uproot weeds, then working side by side to level the soil and shape the planting beds. In the gentle morning sunlight, the steady sound of hoes striking earth blended with their breathing, like a slow, warm melody. On their way back from the market to the old house to continue their work, they unexpectedly ran into Du. He was leaning against a tree, his gaze a mix of surprise and quiet contemplation upon seeing Hoai Ca. Du, the man who had once been by her side, and the biological father of Tony, still hadn't stopped loving or watching over her. In his heart, the simple yet fierce longing remained that one day, Hoai Ca would agree to return so that the three of them, he, she, and Tony, could be reunited under the same roof. Yet, despite many conversations, Hoai Ca's answer had never changed. She refused him gently but firmly, for her heart already belonged wholly to Hùng. Each time the subject arose, her eyes shone with steadfast resolve, yet also carried a faint trace of guilt, for she knew how much Du had sacrificed. At that moment, Ha quietly stood by her side, not interfering, but with a look in his eyes that held something unreadable, a mix of understanding and the weight of some deeper, unspoken thought. Today, when Du caught sight of Hoai Ca and Ha walking together down the narrow alley leading to the old house, he froze for a few seconds. The midday sunlight spilled down, clearly illuminating the two of them chatting while carrying bags, their closeness stirring an indescribable feeling in him. It wasn't an explosive jealousy, but rather a restless discomfort, as if someone had unknowingly stepped into a corner of memories he still wanted to keep solely for himself. He stepped closer, forcing his voice to remain even. As he reached the yard, Du gave them both a slight nod, then turned to Hoai Ca with a faint smile. "I heard you came back to clean up the garden. If you don't mind, I'd like to lend a hand." The words seemed simple, yet beneath them lay a quiet wish that was hard to hide, to be near her, even if it was just to pull a few weeds or stack a bundle of dried corn stalks. Without hesitation, Du rolled up his sleeves and stepped into the garden, as if claiming an unspoken right to stay. His gaze, at times lingering on Hoai Ca a moment too long, carried a hint of emotion and an unspoken reminder that he was still here, still unwilling to let go. Ha stood nearby, silently watching, his hands moving steadily as he struck the hoe into the soil. Between the thud of the hoe and the sound of dry weeds being uprooted, the air in the garden seemed to grow heavier, like an undercurrent waiting for its moment to surge. Before leaving, Du made sure to leave Hoai Ca a surprise gift, an entire truckload of new bricks, enough for her to line the edges of the vegetable beds in the garden. He smiled, explaining that he only wanted her garden to look tidier and more beautiful. As much as he wished to stay and help Hoai Ca finish the work, an unexpected phone call forced him to leave, leaving behind a quiet yard with only two people, Hoai Ca and Ha. Without many words, the two resumed their work. Ha carried stack after stack of bricks, carefully placing them alongside the freshly formed rows of soil. Hoai Ca followed, adjusting each brick so it sat perfectly straight, forming neat, ruler-like borders. The afternoon sunlight poured down, casting a golden hue over the garden, while the steady sound of bricks settling into place blended with the distant calls of birds in the trees. Time seemed to slow. They worked on without pause until the sunlight stretched into long, slanting shadows, yet there was no trace of fatigue on Ha's face. On the contrary, his eyes shone with quiet joy, for every moment here was a moment spent by Hoai Ca's side. And Hoai Ca, in those wordless moments, felt a warmth bloom inside her. She was grateful that Ha, without hesitation or complaint, had been willing to share in even the smallest of her burdens. Among those neatly aligned bricks, it seemed they were building more than just a new garden. They were also laying down an unspoken, steadfast bond, one that grew stronger with every synchronized movement of their hands. On Hung's side, these days feel like an unending string of trials. The debt his mother had caused still loomed over him, forcing him to sell the home he had cherished for years just to make ends meet. Now, he was taking shelter in an old house belonging to a close friend, a place with nothing more than 4 bare walls and long stretches of silence. Just the other day, Hung made the difficult decision to tell his younger sister, Tiu San, the whole truth. It was far from an easy conversation. He revealed that the woman they had both called mother all their lives was, in fact, their stepmother. Their biological mother had left the family when they were far too young to understand. Later, the stepmother married their father, and because she had no children of her own, she took in Hung and Tiu San as her own, raising and caring for them without lacking in anything. Yet, that love came with a fiercely possessive nature. She always wanted everything to happen exactly as she wished, from the smallest matters of daily life to the most important decisions in their lives. In her mind, I have sacrificed to raise you, so you must live according to the plans I've set, even when it came to love and marriage. To her, Tiu San should marry the man she chose, and Hoai Ca, the woman Hung loved, had to have her approval before being with him. Hùng understood that she had once poured her whole heart into raising them. But that invisible bind was like a tightening rope, forcing him to walk paths that were never truly his own. Now that he was grown, he could no longer remain silent. Yet, speaking the truth meant reopening the deepest wounds in Tearful San's heart and in his own. Before he could untangle the chaos within his family, Hùng was struck by news like a bolt from the blue. A call from his superior came, the stern voice on the other end ordering him to report to the office immediately. There, an official announcement was made. By directive from higher authorities, Hùng and another colleague were to be reassigned to a distant unit. It wasn't just a matter of a few kilometers that he could drive back and forth in a day, it was a full 130 kilometers away, far enough to sever any chance of frequent visits. As the words sank in, a heavy weight settled in his chest. The image of Hoai Ca flashed through his mind, along with the painful question, from so far away, how could he be there to care for and protect her? Unwilling to accept it, Hùng tried everything to stay. He personally approached his superiors, explained his circumstances, and even suggested sending someone else in his place, anything to keep working in the place he knew so well. But the only answer he received was a firm shake of the head. This was an order from higher command, and in an environment of strict discipline, no one had the right to defy it. Hùng even put his plea into writing, drafting a formal request to remain in his current position, hoping it might be reconsidered. Yet those heartfelt lines remained on the desk, powerless to change a decision already stamped in red ink. Every effort had been in vain, and Hùng knew a new chapter, defined by distance and daunting challenges, was about to begin. Hùng sat in silence in the cramped room, the yellow light casting a weary glow across his face. At that moment, it felt as if pressure was closing in from every direction. His job, once a source of pride and the sole pillar of his financial stability, was now forcing him to leave the place he had long called home. His family had yet to find peace, the cracks in their relationship still smoldering beneath the surface. He felt as though he had been pulled into a whirlpool with no way out. If he accepted the reassignment, he would have to go far away, leaving Hoai Ca behind. The 130-kilometer distance was more than just a stretch of road. It was an invisible challenge, eroding closeness and shared moments day by day. But if he refused, it meant facing the risk of losing his job, and with it, everything he had worked tirelessly to build over the years could vanish in an instant. Hùng felt as though he were standing at a stormy crossroads. On one side was his career, the work he had devoted his entire youth to building. On the other was love, the woman he could not bear to be apart from for even a day. He knew that if time and distance were allowed to wedge themselves between them, the bond he shared with Hoai Ca might never remain as pure and intact as it was now. That thought frightened him more than any dangerous mission he had ever faced. Because this time, his adversary was not a criminal. It was fate itself, something no one could ever truly defy. ChatGPT said. So, in the midst of mounting pressures closing in from all sides, which path will Hùng choose? Will he accept the separation to hold on to his career, or defy everything to remain by Hoai Ca's side? Will the 130-kilometer distance become a test that strengthens their love, or a wound that slowly drives them apart? The decision he makes at this moment could completely alter the course of both his life and Hoai Ca's. Love, trust, and the future ahead all now hang in the balance. Stay tuned to see, in the next chapters, how Hùng finds his way forward and whether their hearts will remain steadfast enough to weather the storm that's coming.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình có lên một video mới về nội dung quản lý Hoài Ca. Thì kênh của mình cũng đã ngưng một thời gian rồi, thì do nó trục trặc về một số vấn đề ở trên kênh á mọi người, thì hôm nay thì mình mới lên video lại. Mình mong rằng video mới này có thể nhận được sự ủng hộ của mọi người và có thể có nhiều lượt xem hơn, và mình hứa rằng sẽ trong thời gian tới lên video một cách đều đặn và cụ thể theo khung giờ cố định để mọi người có thể theo dõi. Và mình hy vọng rằng mọi người có thể ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn để kênh mình ngày càng phát triển và có thể ngày càng phát triển và có thể lớn mạnh hơn nữa. Và nếu như mà có ý kiến đóng góp gì cho kênh thì mọi người có thể để lại ở phần bình luận. Và nếu như mọi người yêu quý các nhân vật thì hãy cũng để lại bình luận để tiếp thêm động lực cho họ mọi người nhé. Và hãy đăng ký kênh, đừng bỏ lỡ video nào nha. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại trong những video tiếp theo.